Hello viewers. Waste not. We're in a mining town northwestern New South Wales. It's a week road trip and yeah, I look like a tourist. I'm blending in with the tourist. Anyway, we're looking at one of the old historical homesteads here in town. It was an old hospital built back in 1914, looking at the old mining equipment around it. Anyway, I was wandering around the back of it, and I noticed a familiar plant that I haven't seen a lot of around where we live for a long time. And it's called the old man saltbush. Back in the old days of the pioneers, they used to either harvest it in the wild, it's a native to Australia, or they would cultivate it as a vegetable supplement. It's very nutritious. It's also used as livestock feed for cattle and sheep. It takes me back 20 years ago when I had to hand plant about 300 plants of these on a 300-acre property with two other guys, and he was planting it as stock feed. It's probably a long forgotten plant in that it was cultivated by humans around their gardens, particularly out in these remote areas, as a vegetable substitute. This area being very hot and dry for conventional gardens, vegetables, fruit trees and that sort of thing. So, saw the saltbush there, and I'll embed a photo in this video of it to give you a closer look at it. But what we've got here is what they call the old man saltbush. It's native to Australia, and it goes back a long way in history with the indigenous cultures, where they used to use parts of the plant and the seed. It has a little berry that grows on top, and they would use that as food. I'll just try a bit. That's what the leaf looks like. It's very easy to identify. It's a greyish green. Okay. It does have a salty taste, but it has another taste like a herb, or an herb as it's sometimes called, and it can be eaten green off this, raw in other words, or it can be used in cooking recipes. Our indigenous cultures, the indigenous people used to use the fruit and the nuts, particularly the nuts out of the fruit, grind it down into a paste and cook their own stuff with it. Or later on, when Europeans introduced dampers, they used to mix it in with the damper dough, give it a nice flavour, so to speak. It can be used in cooking, and it's one of those forgotten plants that in upmarket cuisine recipes and that sort of thing are now becoming more popular. Probably pay an arm and a leg for them when this stuff's growing wild in the bush, and that's what the top of it looks like. That's just starting to bud up because I've had some rain out here recently. Very hardy plant, drought resistant, grows about 2 to 3 metres tall. I have seen them growing along the roadsides along here and stock feeding off them, sheep, cattle, that sort of thing. So it is a stock supplement, very nutritious. In other parts of the world, these grow too as a native plant. There's about 60 varieties of them, I believe, from what I've heard. Arid parts of the world, North American continent and other places too. I suggest you do your research. I'm not quite sure if all varieties are edible, or certain parts of it are edible in a raw state, or they need to be processed. But it's one of those forgotten plants that can be cultivated in a garden as a vegetable plant for humans, and also as a stock feed supplement for stock. Salt, yes, it does taste salty, not overbearing, but salt is one of those vital nutrients that the human body needs in the right quantities to function properly. as you know, if you're working out in hot areas, hot temperatures, sweating a lot, and your salt intake isn't sufficient to replace what you lose in sweat, you start to get cramps and things like that. So that's one of the forgotten ones. It might be worth looking into if you live in a dry area or areas that these grow best in. And I was quite amazed to find this growing in an urban area. It's an old gold mining town, goes back to the 1800s, but it was growing quite well. And they're a long-lived plant. They're not the ones that die off every 6 months or 12 months or things like that. They just keep growing. So that's another one that waste not. Yeah, people use it for stock food, but humans can eat it too. Thank you for watching.